I'm Aaron from PhoneDog.com, and part 2 of the dogfight battle between the Samsung Galaxy S3 on Verizon and the HTC DROID Incredible 4G LTE, also on Verizon, starts in just a moment. But first, special thanks to our friends at Best Buy Mobile for hooking us up actually with these identical phones for use in our One Paw Bandit giveaway game, which should come to the site very soon for giveaway. When you go into Best Buy Mobile, you won't deal with rebates, paperwork, waiting 8 to 10 weeks. I can't stand that stuff. I know you can't stand it too. No debit cards at Best Buy Mobile. You'll walk out the door with either one of these devices or both if you're a big spender, and you won't have to worry about mail-in rebates. Let's take a look. SGS3, DROID Incredible 4G LTE. It's part 2 of an awesome dogfight, and it starts right now. So it's part 2 of an epic dogfight battle, and I say that all the time, but this is going to be a challenge for some people on Verizon where, they may want the Galaxy S3 because they've seen all the Olympic commercials about the Galaxy S3 and the features it can do. And then there's HTC's device, and unfortunately they didn't get their flagship on Verizon. So the One X, the Evo 4G LTE, whichever one you see as a flagship for that company. Unfortunately, Verizon opted for, at least unfortunately in my opinion, they opted for the DROID Incredible 4G LTE. It's a very watered down version of the HTC One series. It's like a 1S but with a slower clock speed on the processor, and unfortunately, and the designs changed as well. So people praise the designs of the One series, the metal, the polycarbonate shells. Unfortunately, that's the sad side is they went with this kind of resound style design as a result of the DROID brand. So it is a DROID Incredible 4G LTE, so it's a member of the DROID brand, and this one again is the Galaxy S3, which stayed unchanged across the carrier. So I think if you're somebody like me that, and I think a lot of people are going through this issue with HTC's current devices, it's like, I like the One X, but I don't like AT&T, or I like the Evo 4G LTE, but I don't like Sprint, but I love Verizon, but I don't care for the device they have. Whereas the good thing about the Galaxy S3, it's almost the exact same device regardless of which carrier you go to, and it's available in mostly the same colors with the exception of the red on AT&T. So you're getting a consistent experience. That's an area where I hope HTC will improve on and kind of push the carriers later in the year. They need to be like, hey, we want this design, to stay consistent across all the different carriers. But as I was saying in part 1, you've got your menu stuff here, and they scroll very similarly from side to side as opposed to up and down. And then you've got, like I was saying, in terms of design, you've got a menu, a back button, and a physical home button, which also acts as S-Voice. And then you've got back, home, and then recent applications here. Recent applications, of course, an Android feature, which I can access by doing this, pressing and holding, and doing the same thing over here and accessing the task manager from there. Then, of course, the menu button also. You can see the Android look and feel here with the menu buttons, as you can see there. And then, of course, on the side, just to give you an idea of what they look like, power button over here on the side, volume rocker on the left side, 3.5mm headphone jack up top, micro USB charging port down here at the bottom, and then, of course, a nice big 4.8-inch display on the front. Volume rocker over here, micro USB charging port on the left side over there, 3.5mm headphone jack, red power button, and a red ring around the camera. So let's jump right in and take a look at some speed tests, because I want to show you the differences here between, and of course, we'll do speed tests first on the network side. And keep in mind, Verizon's 4G LTE is pretty terrible in my office, and they're definitely working on that. They know it's a coverage issue, so thanks to Verizon for taking the time to look at it. But speedtest.net, you're going to get 5 to 12 megabits per second. That's what Verizon guarantees in a typical 4G LTE market, and 2 to 5 megabits per second on the upload. That said, my office is like a dead spot for wireless. I've got my AT&T microcell over here. I have a Verizon one over here that I haven't plugged in yet that will give me at least decent call quality. So it is kind of an issue. I'm like right in the middle of the building, so these are obviously not normal speeds. But you're going to get 5 to 12 megabits per second. If it's a new LTE market or a market that's not as saturated, you might get speeds even faster. So just take this with a grain of salt. And actually, these are so bad that it's really not even worth doing, because they're not indicative of normal markets. But we can load up Quadrant Standard, and this is particularly interesting to me because you've got Quadrant Standard here on a 1.5 gigahertz dual-core Snapdragon S4 CPU, and over here on a 1.2 gigahertz dual-core Snapdragon S4 CPU. So both are S4s. This one just runs at 1.5 gigahertz. This runs at 1.2. So it's interesting to see to me which one's faster. Obviously, I imagine this one would be a little bit faster, but it's interesting to see how much faster and things like that. Let's talk, though, a little bit about call quality and battery life. I've been really impressed with call quality on both. Earpiece is nice and loud. Actually, on the Galaxy S3, you have the option as well. I complained that the international one wasn't loud enough. On the US versions, you have the option to turn up the sound even more. You can go all the way to maximum volume, then there's a button you can click right on the call screen that will give you a boost in volume. And then this one over here is reasonably loud. Speakerphone's nice on both of these as well. And then you have battery life, 2,100 milliamp hours over here, 1,700 milliamp hours over here. I think you'll be pleased with either one. You know, while the Galaxy S3 does have a bigger battery, it's got a bigger display. I get about, and actually it's funny because all the carrier versions, Verizon's is my least, in terms of battery, I get the least amount of battery on the Verizon one because their LTE is just a power hog. I get about 10 hours, 10 to 11 hours with moderate use on Verizon's Galaxy S3. And then on the Droid Incredible 4G LTE, I'd say somewhere between 9 and 10.5 hours with moderate use. HTC's done a better job with their standby times on their devices, so when you're not using it, you'll notice the battery life seems to last a little bit longer than previous LTE devices, or previous HTC LTE devices on Verizon, I should say. So they're sending the results, but again, I have terrible data connectivity in the office, so this could take some time. And this is an issue with HTC and with some other Android devices, but mostly HTC. So yeah, the menu button was just out of place right there, and I did not mean to close that out. Rats, I've got to rerun this. Work finally decided to respond and cooperate here, so you can see 4,525 on the Samsung Galaxy S3, 4,345 on the HTC DROID Incredible 4G LTE. So very similar on the score front, just as a reflection of that clock speed difference between the two devices. In day-to-day use, you're probably not going to notice a difference between those two. Also wanted to point out, pressing and holding the menu button activates search over here, and then I think maybe it's back. Hang on, which one is it? There actually might not be one. I can't recall. It's been so many devices coming out in the past couple of months. I don't think there is actually a search shortcut. But what I do like is the ability to add folders down here in the actual area, the menu area, or the dock area, versus over here you have the option to do icons, and that's about it. Another option I wanted to point out, your widgets are actually up here on the Samsung Galaxy S3. They're part of your apps. You can just scroll back and forth between apps and widgets, or click, I should say, back and forth between widgets. When you want to see them all, you can pinch like that, or I can go back to the main page and scroll back and forth through my different pages of widgets. Over here, a little bit different. Press and hold one of the home screens. You've got 7 home screens up here, as you can see up top, and then you can scroll through all your widgets or isolate to calendar, calculator, clock, Facebook, etc. like that. Let's take a look at browser as well. Again, 4G LTE, although it doesn't work very well in my office. And you can really see the screen size difference here. So if you're somebody like me that enjoys, watching YouTube on your phone, you watch YouTube a lot. If you're like me, obviously it's because of work. But even in personal time, I'll do YouTube videos from time to time. It's nice to have the big display. If you're listening to music, you're watching a music video, you're browsing the web, I find it much easier to use over here just because of the larger display. So pinch to zoom, very responsive. Over here, still loading on both of these, but relatively responsive over here with your menu button up top. And then you've got a tabs button, which I'll show you in just a second. You've got your tabs over here where I can add new ones or click on existing. And of course, I've got my bar up top with my bookmarks there. Back here, menu where I can add bookmarks, view desktop site, and more. Through here, and I can pinch like that, pinch to zoom in and out. If you haven't had a chance, go see Inside the Dog Pound to learn more about Sydney, because she has some pretty cool things that she likes. Did you know she wants to sing, I think it was, or be on Broadway or something like that? I've got to go back and read it myself, but I thought it was pretty cool, so take a look at that. Pinch to zoom responsive, portrait to landscape transition on both of these devices, relatively responsive with little to no lag, and again, you get the benefit of an HD display over here as opposed to a QHD display over on the Droid Incredible 4G LTE, and there's only a $50 price difference between these two devices. So go back home and take a look really quickly as well, just to show you what the differences look like on a bigger screen versus a smaller display. I give you Gmail to Gmail here so you can see what those look like. And again, it's nice to have the screen real estate of a 4.8-inch display, but again, you may be a person that's migrating up from a smaller display, and you find this to be a little bit better for your personal use. Otherwise, HTC's widgets, as you can see here, customizable. Most of Samsung's are as well, and then you have quite a few new ones in here as well. Widgets between calendar, between Gmail, and I'll show you the Gmail one, which is actually a stock ice cream sandwich widget. Do inbox, for example. I can customize and change around the size as I see fit, and put that on the home screen, and it's a dynamic widget, meaning I can scroll back and forth between it. So HTC's widgets finally customizable, though, a nice benefit. If you're like me and like change it around and you make your home screens you have the ability to do so on both of these devices. So again, we'll take one look at phone as well, because I wanted to show you a couple things in here. You can see the icons here, a little bit different, a little bit of a different look and feel. You've got your contacts, and I don't like how this works. See how recent calls and contacts are all kind of jumbled together? HTC's done this for as long as I can remember, and it drives me nuts every single time I see it. Because I've got 611, let's just say I'm making phone calls, call Jane Baker, for example, or dial Alexis Stevenson, which is a fake number, so you can see what the call screens look like. And then there's that button I was talking about where you can make the volume louder. You've got add call, in call, speaker, headset, and more. But what I wanted to show you over here is when you go to end the call, you'll see that your recent calls kind of jumble in with your contacts, and that drives me nuts because off of a glance, I can't tell which ones are contacts, which ones are recent calls, and that gets kind of old. Then you have recent calls over here where you can see today, favorites, contacts, and then I can see recent activity, not just phone calls, but when I text message people, they show up in here as well. So all in all, you know, they're both great devices. They both got some great options. If this one were a little bit cheaper, and this is giving it away as a spoiler because I am definitely the Dogfight winner is the Samsung Galaxy S3, but if this were cheaper, it's a great device. I'm not saying it's bad. It's unfortunate that they decided not to go with one of the One designs or keep that 1.5 gigahertz dual-core processor, maybe add a little bit of a bigger battery, but otherwise it's a great device. I just wish it were a little cheaper. At $100 or maybe $79.99, this will be a great option, but it's $150 at least in Verizon retail stores. This is $199 for the 16 gigabyte version. I'm hard-pressed to recommend it when there's only a $50 difference and you get so much more. You get an HD display, a faster processor, a bigger battery, a camera, which I'll show you this as well, that has features that are much better. Also, you can see in here, for example, we can go to burst shot, we can go in here to share shot, buddy photo share, so I can share pictures. I can use S-Beam and tap pictures and share them that way, hold the devices up back to back. There are a lot of different options in here on this device. Burst shot, for example, I can do like what I do on the 1X and the Evo 4G LTE and take a whole bunch of pictures and find the best one. They didn't bring image sense over here, so while the camera is still very good on this device, it's a fantastic 8 megapixel camera, one of the best I've worked with, you don't get the burst shot option, so you can't take rapid pictures, and if that's something that matters to you, then you're going to want to go with the Galaxy S3. Again, what I'm saying, $50 gets you all these features, and for that, I have a hard time recommending the incredible 4G LTE. Now, if it were like 1X versus Galaxy S3 and they were the same price, it'd definitely be a challenge and the features would be a little bit closer and it would be a tighter dogfight. But, you know, because of this, Galaxy S3 is the winner for the features and for the price point. Keep it locked on PhoneDog.com for continuing coverage. Let me know what you think, too. If you love the incredible 4G LTE, maybe you wish Verizon got that 1X or the Evo 4G LTE. Let me know on Twitter. PhoneDog_Aaron on the Twitters, as I like to call it. Facebook, Facebook.com/PhoneDogAB, and cast your vote for PhoneDog's official smartphone rankings. If, boy, this is your favorite device, maybe this is your favorite device, let us know at PhoneDog.com/rankings. Keep it locked on the site for continuing coverage on both of these devices. It's dogfight season. The fun isn't going to stop, so stay tuned to PhoneDog and YouTube.com/PhoneDog for more. We'll see you next time.